Hey, this is just a little prelude. I don't have the exact date, but this episode was recorded well over 6 months ago.
Oh, wait a minute, where did you do it? Let me see if you did it right.
I did it.
Now recording.
Got it.
Hey, it's Craig.
It's Craig. All right. Do you want to do the intro?
Don't fuck up this time.
Dang, you literally said it, and I just fucked up already. I fucked up already.
I was telling Craig to not fuck up, but you fucked up.
All right. Nobody, do you want to do the intro?
Sure. Hello everyone. This is the anonymous podcast. And I am here. My name is Nobody Knows, and I am with my. I guess you're the host. I don't know.
Am I?
I'm gonna say you're the host. Roscoe Sweatsuit.
I don't want that
Wetsuit.
pressure.
Oh man, it's too late. It's on you.
You're asking too much of me. But I'm Roscoe's wetsuit. Sweatsuit, wetsuit, depends on the day. Nobody, why don't you explain the show?
All right, so the show is just me and Sweatsuit has had a relationship for a long time and kind of just talk about random things. So it's kind of to document that stuff and just talk about stuff that we're interested in. It's normally random and fun, and we just kind of do that stuff. The only other thing we want to put out right in front, just like this is if you're listener right now, this is the one thing you should remember. We are not expert. We don't know anything we're talking about. We're just having fun, speculating. Don't take any of this as truth. We're just trying to have a good time and talk about stuff that we care about.
I just want you all to keep it in the back of your mind that one of us didn't graduate from college. I'm not going to tell you which one. I just want you to know that one of us didn't graduate from college.
That doesn't matter. Who needs school?
Yeah, pretty much the show is we talk about things that we've been thinking. Sometimes there are things that we probably have already talked about outside of the podcast. We might kind of give a synopsis and see if we've learned anything else from it, if we've gathered some more information. I know today I've gone in. I've got 3 sources. Dang it. I've got 3 sources. Nobody knows.
You see, you already messed up. But like, geez, you're ready. You're like the kid that's like excited for the resource paper.
Actually, I only have 2 sources, but one of them.
So
neither of them is Wikipedia.
Sweatsuit, you're a liar.
Do I have 3? I definitely have 2. I definitely have 2. I don't remember if I had 3. But yeah, we're gonna get into it. What have you been thinking about, Nobody?
Oh, what have I been thinking about? So one thing I was thinking about was like just a lyric from Aesop Rock, which I re-listened. I listened to I think it's Impossible Kid. I re-listened to one of his albums today. I don't know. I don't remember exact one, but all the stuff is pretty good or whatever. So I was listening to a couple singles, and like there was like one lyric that popped out or like kind of just stuck out, and it's an old lyric. And it's I think the song's like 4 years old, but it's at least 4 years old. But the lyrics like you might know, like saying like knowing's half the battle is like kind of bullshit, and it doesn't help you. It doesn't make you a better person. You can know who you are and still be like a shitty person, or like even worse, a person that doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah,
let me look up the lyric.
The quote is "Knowing is half the battle." That's a bullshit quip written by some asshole.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. But yeah, that is a quote. I was just thinking about that, and I was like, that's very interesting because, like, I think we both think about a lot of things and do a lot of self-reflection, and like, I think like it's always important to know that, like, there's always a difference between like thought and actions, and like it's easy to get caught up into either one of those like avenues, right? So like you can do a whole bunch of actions without thinking, and then you can do a lot of thought without doing any actions. And like the key is to like really kind of, if you're thinking about something, make sure you act with it, and if you're acting, make sure you're thinking about it too. I was thinking about that in general.
Yeah, and it kind of goes to like, we know that a lot of the things that we do is murdering the environment. And we know all this, and we still do it. That's like a perfect example of, we know knowing is half the battle. But it's really not, because we haven't even begun to address the problems as much as the demand calls. It's not even half the battle. We haven't even like
we haven't even done that. We just acknowledged it.
Yeah, we didn't even declare war.
Oh jeez. The other thing I was thinking about, I think the other main thing was like, so if listener, the time that we're recording this is a little bit after the 2020 presidential election, and so there's a lot of buzz and stuff like that, and you guys are definitely in the future, so you definitely knew what happened or whatever. But one of the things I've been listening to, like a lot of people just like reporting about President Biden winning this election, and there's been talk and chatter days before the presidential elections, and like till still today a little bit about like former President Trump getting prison crimes for stuff he did in office and like some other stuff or whatever. So like there's been a little bit of social media buzz saying like if he didn't win the presidency, he would be like sent to jail or whatever. And like I was listening to people thinking about it and stuff like that, and I got an opinion from I didn't get an opinion, but I was listening to an opinion from a guy named Hassan or whatever, and he like raised something that I found like that was super interesting. But pretty much like his I'm gonna jumble up his point and just make a general point. But like he was pretty much saying like if you're going to be a president, you are actively like taking position to a place that you are like going to do war crimes. Like if you are the president, you're going to do war crimes because like it's just a part of like what you do, kind of like because of like just the situation of like the country and how it works or whatever. Like as soon as you join office, you are like going to like be a part of this thing. Like you're going to be part of like some bad shady shit, right? And he was saying like this is what he was kind of saying that stuff, saying like this is what his opinion of like why he didn't think Trump will get any jail time for anything he did in office, because like if you do that for him, you can do the same thing to every other president or whatever, if that precedent happens or whatever. But yeah, I just find it interesting where it's like a part of this position is accepting that you're about to do a whole bunch of terrible shit. It was an interesting like idea. I don't know if it's 100% true or 100% false or whatever. I don't think it's 100% false, but like that's what the dude was saying. I was like, oh man, that's a super just interesting point. Is like you work really hard to get to this position, and this position, just by having it, is kind of gonna make you a shitty person. Not kind of, probably is.
I'm not too familiar with like whatever has been going on the whole presidency. Like to me, I'm aware, but also there were so many scary things happening over like the last 4 years. It was kind of like, one, hard to keep track of, and two, it just kind of made, I don't know, there's some parts that just like I felt like you just kind of wanted to climb into like bed, pull over the covers, and wait for it to be over. Like, I'm still not. The last 4 years I've been in, I feel like we've talked about this, I've been in kind of denial. But
I don't think. Oh, go ahead.
To go to what you're talking about, yeah, I mean, pretty much every president's done war crimes. That's pretty. I'm pretty sure that's if that is disputable, I don't think it's disputed by many people, although I could be wrong. But I think aren't some of the things that he's being possibly tried for, like some of those I think have to do with tax fraud and more domestic issues.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that part. I was just like thinking of that idea is like when you're as soon as you become like a president, you are a part of you're pretty much attached to war crimes. It seems like, I don't know, like just a weird thought. I don't know like about the what's gonna happen to Trump and his stuff. Time will tell with that kind of stuff. I think he's kind of rich, so even if all this stuff is true and people are able to prove it, he's rich. He has money to fight back the system.
Yeah,
this is what money's used for.
We
You
will
get
see.
money not for good to feel good or whatever. You get it so you could get away with shit.
Yeah. But yeah, that is super interesting. The idea that like you could, it's kind of like, that's kind of part of the job, because you were literally like the instrument of, I guess if I was going to put my anarchist hat on, that is like, you are in charge of state violence, well both state violence against your people, or the ability to perform violence against your people, and the ability to perform violence outside of your territory.
But yeah, I was just like, yeah, I just find that like we always look at positions for the power, but like it's, I guess like every like what's the always says about the crown or whatever. It's like saying like everyone wants the crown, but like heavy is the head of the crown or whatever, something like that. Like everyone wants this, like are like excited by the glitz and glamour, but like those small details that you don't know about or you just don't consider, I feel like makes a world of difference of like, I don't know, the way you should look at these things.
Yeah. At the very least, every president in recent history has maintained the upkeep of Guantanamo Bay. So
yeah. Even the president, I'm a fan of Obama, but Obama said he was gonna do something about it, and it's still around. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But yeah, but there's probably like with every like position like that. I think the person that created Boondocks, he wrote something like this, where he was like saying like, hey, he doesn't. It's not like he dislikes Obama or like dislikes his like stands or whatever. Because he was like writing stuff that like a lot of people were disagreeing with, or whatever. But he was like saying he just didn't feel like the president had the power to bring the change that he's talking about. And I always found that interesting and stuff like that. But yeah, that position, even though it's like one of the most powerful positions in the U.S., right? There's limits to that powers, and processes and bureaucracies can slow everything down to a halt. So even if a President Obama had the intention to do that stuff, like maybe he didn't have the power to do it.
If I could tie this up in a nice little bow with a lyric, I'm going to say that Reagan was an actor and not at all a factor, just another slave of the country's real masters.
Yes, yep, Killer Mike. But yeah, that was the two things I was thinking about. I was thinking about like I guess the power of positions and their drawbacks, and I was thinking about how Aesop Rock is so good with words. So, what have you been thinking about?
Man, I feel like I've been going in on language for a while, because the last episode that will never be aired was, I believe I was talking about language. And this episode, I'm also talking about language.
Yay.
Next week, I may also talk about language. Who knows?
You're just going to become the language guy.
I know. We might as well make this half a linguistics podcast.
Yep, let's talk about a language we have no idea about.
Yeah, well, this is going to be about a language this is going to be about English. This whole section is going to be about English. This is actually comes from a study done by Catherine Kinsler. She is a doctor at University of Chicago, and she did this experiment, I believe, with K-5 through 4th graders. She pulled kids from the North and the South, and per grade, and she played audio from each one of them, one from a northern student, one from a southern student, and they were asked to describe like how comfortable they felt, or I guess their ideas about those voices. And what they found was that the northern kids seemed only comfortable with other northern kids, and the southern kids, they kind of didn't feel as comfortable around those voices. They might have described them as weird, or they sounded funny. Do you want to take a guess at what the southern kids thought?
I would think the southern kids would probably say, this might be optimistic, but probably say like, yes, the southern accent or like voices sound more familiar but the northern kids or the northern people voices didn't sound weird, but it didn't sound like as familiar. I would say they would have neutral opinions about the northern one and probably a slightly positive or positive opinion about the southern one.
Yeah, so you were completely right. The Southern kids found that both the voices of their peers and also the Northern voices were both comfortable. They were pretty neutral about the Northern voices, because obviously media and the things that you watch like make that normalized during your development. And let's I guess I want to put in as a caveat that it's not based on ethnic groups or any other sort of thing. They just gathered people that were from the North and from the South. What they found was that they started seeing different results as they went up towards the age of fourth graders, which is, I don't know what age fourth graders are. Let's say like 10, 11, maybe.
What you say?
Maybe like 9, 10.
I would say, yeah. Because like it's fifth grade. From after fifth grade, you go to sixth grade, and sixth grade is middle schools. So I would say, like, yeah, 9, 10, maybe going on.
Yeah, somewhere in there. And what they found is that both Northern and Southern students had the same answer when they were shown both the North and the South students. They described the Northern students as smarter and more likely to be in charge. And do you want to guess what they thought the Southern students sounded more like?
Probably not well educated. That's probably one they're gonna say, because that's like a general thing that everyone says about the South for some reason.
Well, that's one of the inferences, but let's give a positive trait.
Down to earth.
Close. They described them as friendlier. They had a friendlier sounding voice, more easy to interact with. She sort of mapped out a development of how we develop our impressions based on voice. And what she found is that actually preference towards sound and towards accent is pretty natural. It's kind of found pretty much anywhere you go. Like if you'll find a Northern Southern sort of like debate anywhere you go, even if it's like you're within the city you're from. It's generally created by comfort. Like, when you know who to trust because you become comfortable with the way that people sound, like the people around you. The way that you talk is sort of based around how other people talk to you. And that sort of informs a deep preference based on like that comfort. And surprisingly, this is, I guess, I don't know where she cited the source or if this is from her own findings, but one of her claims is that we tend to judge sound and the way people sound, whether or not they sound closer to the way we are comfortable with, way more than we distinguish between like skin color and things like that. Which to me makes sense in my personal experience, but I don't have the citation or the data to say whether or not that's 100% true.
She did the research if it's a published like report or paper, or like I assume she does the research because if it's published or if it's like a thesis or I'm trying to say it's legitimate, a research paper. That's what I'm trying to say. That is interesting. So like I just want to be clear. You were saying that like it's the way people like talk and have their speech patterns like can like perceive like it's like a strong factor of like seeing people even up like above color that you're trying to say. Is that what you're trying to say? I kind of like missed out on a little bit of what you're saying. Can you like,
one of the inferences is that like children feel way more stronger about preferences to sound than they do about preferences towards like skin color.
Do you think like this may have like to deal with like accents and sound? Like the way people sound can be very, very like regional. Like even like regional from like where you're living. Like you could live in like a state and like it's like, okay, this person's not. It's from like the south part of our state, or even like in a county, right? Like you could be like, oh, okay, I'm from like this part of the county, and this person's definitely from this kind of county because he lives near this and he sounds like this. So I'm guessing what I'm trying to get around to is like, do you think like this is just kind of true generally because like, hey, like you have this certain access, I can assume that you're like you look like this type of person or you're like from this type of background?
Well, this would be the part where I would be speculating, but I imagine if like we were in like a tribal setting, it probably that's a big way of telling whether or not somebody's from around where you're from is like, do you sound like me? Because you like if we're gonna go so to the whole person is it takes a village to raise a child, like it matters that these people sound like you. And I imagine maybe like at some point in time tribes were maybe a little bit more, I don't know, I don't know, but that was more of like wasn't some major like part of like her data or like her findings. I'd have to do more research on that. I think that's a really interesting question. But
I was just interested because like I understand, like if I spoke in like let me think. If I spoke in a Jamaican accent, right, you probably assume some stuff about me or like picture what I may look like. But you like I'm just this is a totally made up example. Like I could still be like I could look completely different. I could look like I'm just like a like it could be like, oh, I'm just like I grew up there, right? Like my parents moved there or whatever. Especially in this world we live in today, right? Like we live in a world where like people are all kind of all over the place, right? Or like let's just say like just languages in general. Like let's say like you have like you speak Spanish, right? You speak not Spanish. Spanish is a little bit too like general. I think like a lot of people speak Spanish everywhere. What's more of like a localized kind of like language? I don't know.
Belgian?
What do you say?
Belgian?
Yeah, let's say you speak Belgian or like Dutch or whatever, right? You might assume some like thoughts about that person. But like since we live in a time that the world's like really, really connected and everyone moves around, like you could be kind of anyone and speak that, right? Like, that's not it shouldn't be uncommon or like unreasonable to be like this person could look like anybody. But as soon as someone hits me with like a German accent or whatever, or like a Belgian accent, I have a picture in my head, right? Like of what this person might look like, but it's like 100% probably not true. Like I have no idea what this person could be. Or even like if someone speaks like Mandarin or Cantonese, right? Like there's probably a general like idea what this person might look like, but like we live in a world where like we're all connected, so it's not silly to assume this, but it's just very like we live in a thing where it's like that possibility of it being anyone is kind of true too, right? Well, it's easier for that to be true, I think.
Yeah. And I think so. It's sort of what she was trying to like. Well, I guess what her findings would be when she was studying like how does this preference sort of translate to prejudice. I guess her inference is that the like society takes that sort of concept of comfort versus discomfort and attaches like other meanings to it. Like, okay, this is like it's a rationalization for this discomfort. And then language becomes this sort of kind of like this sort of legitimized way of like discriminating against other people, especially like in the workplace. Like I think like a good example is like some people won't hire people because like your language is like not like they're like, I don't understand you, or like people will say like you're a poor communicator if you have like if you speak in a dialect they may be unfamiliar with or uncomfortable with, as she would probably say.
Or like, oh man, I kind of want to hire you because you have this accent that just feels like it's smart. to my compared to my accent.
Yeah, like it's weird that when that whole definition of comfort comes in, because like if you take like a British accent, like we for some reason feel very comfortable with British accents, even if like we may not understand something, but we're comfortable enough with it to like put up with the lack of understanding. Meanwhile, if somebody whose like language was formed, let's say maybe like not only a few miles from you, but it may be like a different dialect than what you are, like what you were learned as a kid, you may be less likely to hire that person just because of how they sound, even though their language is much more closer to yours in geographic proximity and probably developing alongside yours.
That is super interesting, right? Like that is kind of true. Like you can be very comfortable with an accent from across the water and be very like critical of an accent that like is relatively close to you.
Yeah,
that's very.
And I think she would probably say that has to do with how that language we are socialized to think about that language. Like if you think of we're socialized kind of to think about British accents are like, oh, that's immediately smart. It's like the same thing with the Southern and Northern. Like if we have a hierarchy tier list of like accents, it would be like Northern accent would probably be on like the B or C B like tier list, and then the British people would be up on like the A. You'd have like Australians and I guess the like with the Southern list.
I think it's something to point out that'd be in English, right? Like for English speaking accents, probably. Right?
Well, this would be for English accents, but this is also the social. This is like the general perspective. Like I'm not saying this is innately true. In fact, I'm arguing against it. But this would be the layman's perception of it.
Let's see.
Or what we're like, I guess she would argue that we're kind of socialized to accept.
Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, that is true and super interesting. Like as soon as you said it, it's like, yeah, that is true. Like people can be like, this person's from Atlanta and I don't like how he has that drawl or says this thing. And I hated that song Panda. It ruined my life. Right, like, right, like it would be like say like it's not like I feel like even like that, like what I'm saying right now, I know it's like a joke, but like that kind of rationality is like those subconscious things like kind of aggregate into like I'd rather take the British person, right, which is a weird thing, right, because the British person, it's like that accent is just like so far away in my opinion, but like not so far away, but like by like distance and stuff, like all that other good stuff.
Yeah, it like should be considered a way more uncomfortable like way of speaking.
Yeah. And then like it's weird that like we're speaking about like England and Great Britain kind of accents right now, but like there's accents in great like in that area that's like Scottish or like there's accents in that stuff like that are in the same location that people will feel the same way they'll feel about like a like a Southern accent, or even if we're not going like to the English or whatever, like if we go down to like parts of Africa or whatever, like the way people sound or their accents or like really bother some people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's I think what was also interesting is that like this sort of weird sort of discrimination based on accent is like something you can find like in almost any area of the world, like, or not any area, any area of like our culture, whether it's like when candidate Bill Clinton was running for office, one of the reporter asked him how, even though he is both a Yale and Oxford graduate, why he talks like a quote unquote hillbilly. Or in 1996 with like the Ebonics controversy, where they literally said that like legitimizing African American dialects would devalue the standard English language.
Yeah, thinking about Outkast, just being booed on stage after winning, like you're feeling good. You just got accepted for an award for like how creative your music was or whatever. And people immediately booed you, and then like I don't know, I know maybe other people will debate this, but like your album becoming like, you know, a pretty strong cult classic to a classic, you know what I'm saying, by a lot of people.
Yeah. And if we want to look at the bright side, at the height of the West Coast, East Coast division, they brought them all together on one thing, and that was hatred towards Southern music.
They were like, what? There's these Southern guys? Oh, let's just all hate this person.
Yeah. Well, I guess the reason why this is like going to be my conclusion. I think the reason why this is important is that like I'm trying to think lately about like language, and it's like as technology, and it's kind of the fundamental technology that we have like as society. I'd argue it's kind of like our first, to put a weird analogy, it's kind of like our first social networking tool that we've had. Without it, we wouldn't be able to pretty much have a society. And it amazes me that like from sound that we make from our mouths that is like meaningless, we are able to construct worldviews. We're able to confine meanings. We're able to like socialize. We're literally able to have people think certain ideas about particularly accents, which are other meaningless ways people say these meaningless sounds.
Yeah.
And how language is kind of just the palette that we shade our planet. And I don't know, I think it's just something we don't always have to argue about it, but like we should always be like conscious at how strong this tool is and this technology is that we use as we continue to evolve it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's super interesting. Yeah. Like, yeah, because language, yeah, I'm thinking about accents and language some more, just like, you know, yeah, it really does. Like, if you hear an accent that's super familiar to you, you can immediately kind of like guess what this person is. And then if you're right, you even feel like good about that, right? Like it's interesting.
It is really incredible. I'm sorry I keep talking about linguistics and language, nobody. I don't even know why. I'm not even like I'm not like actively searching for this information. I just like sometimes it just comes across me and I'm like, wow, this is super interesting. I've never like thought about it this way, and it goes down a rabbit hole. And then I'm 2 sources in on a pitch.
Yeah, you know, when you're in one sort, it's like a foot into a grave. Like once you put one source in there, you're like, oh man, I'm just kind of into this. But you did 2 sources, so you're just down that sinkhole. You're just all the way in.
Yeah. Well, this has been the Anonymous Thought Podcast. I have been Roscoe's Wetsuit.
I've been Nobody Knows.
And we will see you next time.
Take it easy.